Well, let's start off with this, since this is kind of an important topic. Namaskar. Hello, my friends. This is the professor. What's going on? I um, I go through and I read the comments. I don't always respond to everything, but I do read all the comments. And somebody said it was either in a comment or an email they sent me. They said, "Professor, you should watch Guns and Glory." And what Guns and Glory is, for those of you at home who aren't sure, Guns and Glory is a documentary series. There's a bunch of episodes and about 23 minutes long, and it's about Indian War history. And I watched a video. Um, this is kind of the first one. It was about World War One, and this was very reminiscent of when I started watching war things about Russia. You know, growing up in America, uh, everything is American centric. You go to school and you learn American history. Yeah, there's a little bit of world history, but it's about America. And I was completely fascinated by this first episode. Completely fascinated. And what first of all, what surprised me was India's participation in World War One, and I never knew that. I absolutely had no idea that India was involved in World War One. And then I learned about the Baluchis. And the only other place I've heard Baluchis before is I was watching Arnab, and he had some Pakistani dude on who said they've never committed atrocities against anybody. And Arnab lost his mind. What about the Baluchis? What about the Baluchis? And I was always like, Baluchis, what is that? I've never heard that term before. And so I learned about them and their fighting in World War One. I learned about the Punjab regiment that went into the Punjabis, and which I never knew about. And I learned a story about a guy. His name was Khan. His last name was Khan, and he was a machine gunner. And he was the only survivor of his unit, and he still continued on with his machine gun, even though he got shot and wounded and all this stuff. And when the Germans began to cross the line, he feigned his own death. And once they passed, he got up and he crawled back to, to safety. And he was awarded the, not the Silver Cross. Is it Silver Cross? It was like England's highest award for this. And I thought, wait a minute, this is very important. Here you have a colony of Great Britain who is sacrificing her soldiers into war that it's not their war, right? This is not their war. This was the war of the crown, and India was there. World War One, they were there fighting with honor, fighting with passion, and making a difference, truly making a difference. And I was struck by this because history has been literally whitewashed. You know, um, there Indians were there when mustard gas was first used. And can I just point out, Germany is always a problem. I think the Antichrist is going to be German, quite honestly. World War One, World War Two. Oh well, here's World War Three. I mean, come on, three-time loser is my guess. But I was just struck by the sacrifice of the Indians. And apologize, I didn't mean to do a Donald Trump. You'd have to see the footage where he's going for the water. Um, they were talking about in this video um, the European people. And in school, they would have heard about African Americans. They would African Americans. No, they wouldn't have heard about. They would have heard about Africans. They would have heard about Indians, but they never would have seen them. And you think about yourself like the world is such a small place now. Like right now, there are millions of Indians watching me in America. Like that's you would have no idea about this. Maybe if you were in World War One, maybe you knew a story of somebody who came across an Indian, um, because they traveled the world or they were part of the Royal Navy, and but here come these Indians who are quite different than the Europeans, right? And then in this video they talk about this huge fascination that the Europeans had of like and it wasn't a negative. Like the Europeans are like, what is this? Is so different. Look at these people, these men with dark skin and turbans, and the sights and sounds are so different. And their mind was blown because they spoke English. They were like, oh, what? They're speaking English and French, what? And I can only imagine the joy. I find India like it's very much how I feel about India. India to me is a very exotic thing. It is, you know, it's so different, right? It's so different than America. The people look different. The people sound different. The food is different. The customs are different. There is a sense of honor and dignity with Indians that take me back into American history of, the 50s, when when it was, God, America, apple pie, and mom. That was kind of like, very wholesome. And I find that in India. I find that in my Indian friends. There's respect for their mothers. There's respect for their country. There's respect for the prime minister. Even if they don't like him, we're going to respect him because he's the prime minister. And there's an honor to the Indians that is noticeable. There is it's like a coat of armor of honor on them. And so this video talked about it, and then the video goes on to kind of this narrator who I thought was really really good. I really enjoyed him. I thought he did a great job. It's kind of taking you to different points in the war, showing you different things where the Indians fought, and the first time they were in trench warfare, and all this different stuff. And it was really fascinating. I mean, I mentioned it to the Warrior Queen because she loves war documentaries. Like, okay. First of all, let's get the elephant out of the room. That back there is the Christmas tree. So what ends up happening in America, we celebrate early for not early, but we start decorating early for Christmas, usually Thanksgiving. The Warrior Queen loves her Christmas, so that is the Christmas tree. So yes, that is the Christmas tree. And the second thing was if you go to our Netflix, right? And well, my son moved out, but if you went to our Netflix, we all three have our different accounts. Mine is all foreign films, dude. It's like, top picks for you, and it's either Indian or Korean films. The Warrior Queen, all World War II Nazi stuff. It's all it is. It's just like, sorry, I'm on a rolling chair, and I thought I had a rock underneath it, scratching the floor. Sorry. And it just kills me. She's gonna love this. She's gonna absolutely love this. She loves war. She loves war. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? The Warrior Queen loves war. She loves war. She's a warmongerer. I joke, I kid. Um, anyways, great video. Thank you so much for suggesting. I really enjoyed it. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.